Hello everyone! Last week, despite Governor Bev Perdue's awesome move to veto the state budget, North Carolina went the way of Indiana and Kansas and rounded out the trio of states to defund Planned Parenthood. But hold your horses, cowboys and girls. This trio is about to become a quartet, and I don't mean the kind with strings. Thanks to Republican Governor Scott Walker, Wisconsin is perched to sign a bill that would slash $1 million from Planned Parenthood yearly funding, which could lead to the closing of 9 clinics throughout the state. This is not surprising considering Walker was endorsed by a group called Pro-Life Wisconsin, who thinks birth control is a form of abortion and that teenagers shouldn't know anything about sex. Or at least they shouldn't be taught formally, you know, with accurate information. Better to let them learn from one another, you know, swapping bits of half-truths and myths about doing it. They'll figure it out. So Wisconsin has jumped on the bandwagon. This is not a good thing. This is a bad thing. What does this mean? It means that thousands and thousands of low-income and uninsured women, men, and children will no longer have access to, or have to wait a ridiculously long time for, the healthcare services that Planned Parenthood provides. Do you know how much it costs to go to the doctors? I thank my lucky HMO stars every time I get an explanation of benefits paper in the mail. It literally costs $1 bajillion to get a checkup. Okay, maybe not $1 bajillion, but some quantity of dollars that I couldn't afford otherwise, nor can the average Planned Parenthood patient. These provisions to pull funds from Planned Parenthood came from anti-abortion lawmakers, folks who don't want to give money to organizations who provide abortions. Fine, I understand this. But, let's be clear. None of that money is used to fund abortion services. You wanna know how I know that? Because for the past 35 years, the Hyde Amendment has prohibited federal funds from being used to fund abortions. That is how I know that. Which, by the way, do you realize that abortions only constitute a teeny tiny percentage of the services that Planned Parenthood provides? Less than 3% to be exact. That means that 97% of these services are not abortions. They're things like birth control, emergency contraception, STD testing and treatment, cancer screenings, pregnancy testing, prenatal care, and all manner of other important things that people need to maintain their health, reproductive and otherwise. This is what I don't get. Join me, if you would be so kind, on an exercise in logic. You don't want women to have abortions, so you withhold money from an organization that provides abortions, even though this organization provides way more birth control than abortions. So you're effectively limiting access to birth control, which in theory would increase the number of unwanted pregnancies, which also in theory would increase the number of abortions. Way to think outside the box, guys. In the case of Wisconsin, cuts to Planned Parenthood are being portrayed, at least in part, as a cost-saving measure. But again, and I don't mean to go buck wild with the logical thinking here, in 2008, Planned Parenthood prevented over 11,000 pregnancies, which saved the state of Wisconsin $139 million that would have been spent on providing medical coverage for these would-be moms and their babies. Planned Parenthood is a valuable resource. Full disclosure, I've gone to Planned Parenthood when I needed Plan B, and I'm sure glad they were there to provide it, because otherwise I would have had a Plan B, alright. Plan B as in baby. But sadly, folks in any of these 4 states might not be so lucky.